and economist Dr. Julianne Malveaux, who's also president of Bennett College down in Greensboro, North Carolina, and has just written a book, Surviving and Thriving, 365 Facts in Black Economic History, that's supposed to help inspire. It's a fascinating book because you do the individual bios of all kinds of people who have really struggled and made it at a time when not just minorities, but everyone is kind of struggling in this economy. And Congresswoman, you were talking for the break that how important the importance of community college is to get people. It's not just jobs. People have got to have stepping stones from the very beginning. They've got to be able to have skills and an education to get into the market anyway.
They do, because if you live, for example, in this region, and increasingly in any region in the United States, if you have not had at least a couple of years of college, there's going to be no decent job for you. Those jobs have gone offshore. We have, going up in the District of Columbia, the biggest construction project in the United States. We're building the Department of Homeland Security over in Ward 8, which is the lowest income ward of the district. I said, you will never build it's going to be $3.5 billion project in the District of Columbia at a time of unemployment without making sure our people get employed. This has taken a lot of work because a federal project must hire from anywhere in the United States. It can do aggressive outreach, doing a lot of outreach and a lot of monitoring. That project, a third of the workers are D.C. residents, even though D.C. residents are only 10% of the region from which is the national employment group. Unless you take extra steps in this economy, the jobs, even those jobs, would not have gone to people who most needed them.
And we were talking about on August 9th at the D.C. Convention Center, you're holding a job fair. Are there jobs out there?
100 employers from all around the region, not just from the District of Columbia, and we say, you cannot participate in our job fair unless you have open jobs. There are jobs there. Yeah. Now, we are not here saying you can find a job at this job fair, but when I walk around the job fair in prior years, people have been enormously grateful, not because I came out of here with a job, but because in one place they found 100 employers to talk to instead of going all the way around the region.
And you know, Wendy, the thing about the labor market is that it's a very fluid kind of thing. So people are firing, people are letting people go, but people are hiring at the same time. And to have your job search is costly. It's time intensive. It's difficult for some people who don't have transportation, who haven't worked in a long time, so might not have the wardrobe. So to have the opportunity to go someplace for one day, to clean it up for one day, to get those resumes ready, it's a great thing. People are hiring. I mean, on Bennett College's campus, we have employers who come, internships, possibilities. Now, there are not as many as we need, obviously, because we wouldn't have such a high unemployment rate were there. But there still are opportunities, and again, my purpose is to encourage people to continue to seek out opportunities, even to consider entrepreneurship as an opportunity in this context.
That can be so daunting, though. I mean, because you're wondering, what am I supposed to be? Where does one begin? I think when you've been down, you just wonder, what's my first step? How do I even start this process?
Well, that's the interesting thing about Americans, especially African Americans, who were late getting into entrepreneurship because they were deliberately kept out of it. But if you look at the huge number of burgeoning small businesses. We have a lot of them on the St. Elizabeth's with the Department of Homeland Security project. And let me give you one story. We named as our Small Business Person of the Year a man who is putting in all the sprinklers for one of the biggest buildings that is going to be on that project. This man worked as a union construction worker doing sprinklers until about 7 years ago. He hooked on with some people who are not in his business, but bigger contractors. He decided he wanted to go into his own business because he couldn't stand to see so many young Washingtonians who had not learned his trade. This man got the contract to put in the sprinklers for the new Bethesda Walter Reed, and he now is putting in the sprinklers for the Coast Guard building at the Department of Homeland Security. Now, this is a man who learned his craft and then went into business.
And that's very often the story of what entrepreneurs do. But the question, how do you start? Websites, there are lots of
And we have to take a commercial break, and we'll hear that from Dr. Malveaux as soon as we get back on how does one begin in this economy. We'll be right back.